And there goes the dress. Alright. Clearly I need to change before I go to my appointment today. Yeah. I usually have to do that. Ish. So, anyway, put Munchkin on the bus, sent him to school. Not all that long ago. They actually got here late. So it was like 6:30 instead of the supposed pickup time. They've been doing that lately. So but I did talk to somebody at dispatch the other day. I think it was like Friday. Apparently they had a bunch of bus drivers quit. So they're trying to cover for all these bus drivers that are now missing and these routes that, you know, they had to like rearrange stuff. So like, yeah, that's why. He's getting home later and getting picked up later. Basically because they are trying to make sure that all these kids get to school on time. Or ish. On time-ish. So, I don't know. I wish I could take a nap today. It's not gonna happen. I have an appointment and then I need to do some more packing. Most of it is just sort of organizing stuff that we pulled out of the closet so that we just don't have to deal with it close to the time we move. Even just being able to lay down for an hour, even if I can't sleep, would probably help at this point. At this point, though, I feel like I need to drink coffee to drink my coffee. I need to drink coffee so that I can drink my coffee. Yeah, Dean came up with that one. Yeah, I'm like trying to keep them covered. Yay! Bleh. Screw you, your food. Seriously, that I will never forget the fact that they flagged a couple of my videos for cleavage. And I'm still upset about that, just to be clear. I'm still not okay with that. I don't even think I'm ever going to be okay with that. It's like one of those things. Yeah. One of my Glassdoor reviews got basically flagged for being too honest. No, they flagged me for something that they say they don't allow, but is not disallowed in the actual terms of service. They don't have anything that says that you can't do that. You can't outright say profanity, but it says nothing about representative of, like, so I just put a bunch of stars instead, and I guess that's why. Honestly, at first I thought that it was because I said that some people were nice at that job and some people sucked. I'm gonna be perfectly honest. It was a job where some fucked up shit happened to some people, so I was being very honest about it. Everybody was being like, oh, we're not gonna say anything negative. 5 stars, 5 stars, 5 stars. This is the culture of that place, and generally that's what they accept. They want everyone to be 100% positive, and it gets to the point where it's toxic. That's not positivity, that's toxic. That's just lying. There was a girl who got, and I will tell this story until the cows come home. Because it needs to be known that this stuff happens, and I will tell it until someone acknowledges it and fixes it. That's That's basically it. Silencing it isn't the answer. Doing something about a system that is kind of broke. You do need some oversight, and it isn't there. The only oversight that anyone even... Like, there's no way for you to contact the upline of your upline in that job. You have to go through your upline. If your upline decides that they don't want you to do that, you are SO fucking L. See, you need, as an upline, you need to know what your people are doing. Whenever I was with Primerica, which by the way I do not put on my resume. Yeah. My upline skipped a lot of my training. I only even became aware that this was a thing because her upline was talking about it in, like, a meeting, which was more like him just talking at people like a preacher. So, like, I couldn't... And then, like, you weren't allowed to, like, openly discuss these things. Like, it was literally... I couldn't even, like, talk to him then. So, yeah, even if you did it, like, right there, he would stop you. The fuck? Like, there was really no way to do this. And then if you were like, well, that you needed to talk to the upline of your upline in private, then everybody wanted to know what about. What are you gonna tell on us for? Like, it's not just your upline that's concerned now, it's everyone. Because nobody wants you to talk to him. Like, okay, all that tells me is that he'd actually have a problem with the shit that you're doing. One girl was literally chased away from the office and terrified. Like, whenever she found out that I was still going, she wouldn't even talk to me anymore. Like, I invited her, just because it seemed like she still wanted to go. Like, but that she was scared, and I was just trying to make her feel better, and, just say that she could, like, stick close to me, and she wouldn't talk to me anymore after that. She was so terrified, and to be perfectly honest, I should probably be more terrified, but I already lost my dad to that sort of thing, so, like, and I've already lived enough of that, like, stuff, that I can tell the difference between someone who's actually going to act on it, and someone who's just a pussy, who's just saying words. So, but she had no way of knowing this. Me, I've actually dealt with people who really will do those things, though. So, but basically she was Wiccan like me, but she was like neo-pagan and kind of sheltered. And, I can't really call that protected, because there's a level of sheltering that's not necessarily protecting, you're just sort of sheltering them from having to handle the world. And while that's great for children to a point, it's not a great look for adults, because we need to be able to handle the world, obviously, and we can't protect our own children if we don't know what's out there. So, there's a point whenever you need to, like, have at least some exposure. The first time someone threatened her for being pagan, like, she was just traumatized. And, but apparently this is the first time that this had happened to her. Her upline took her to either his house or, like, his cousin's house. One of his cousins sat there and said that basically she needed to die and they should kill her and all this stuff, because she's Wiccan, and that was his, like, only thing. Because religion. And they were Christian, and he just sat there and let it happen. Didn't say nothing. Nothing at all. Didn't even remark on it after, just didn't say a word. And she felt her life was in danger. She had every right to feel that way. I wasn't, all I know is that he himself, while he may be an asshole who stands by and does nothing, isn't dangerous. in the sense of like he himself would not actually hurt anybody like that. Um, Now that might change if he's around people like that. So like maybe don't go with him. Don't be alone with him. Maybe go to his upline and confess that this has happened. But like they need to know that this has happened, especially since they were in the process of giving him his own office at the time. Like they need to know before he's alone and responsible for a bunch of people in his own office. That he's done this, that he's been involved in this, that he was blatantly responsible for you in that situation, and your upline is responsible for you in that situation, just to be clear. This is considered part of it. And to just stand by and do nothing, that's an issue. That's a major issue. And this is something that I ran into. There is, in practice, little to no oversight. And, apparently there are people who seek an office run by this guy, the guy that these guys, are downline from. They don't really have a name for it. He's their upline, they don't really have a name for them in that situation. But, there are Christians who seek his offices because Christians are weird and like to have religion and everything. But they don't really care if like other people don't want to deal with it. They don't really care. In fact, they think that, they're saving you by forcing their religion on you. So, yeah, they don't look at it as forcing. In fact, if you put it that way, then they get all defensive. Like, it's not forcing. I'm not forcing you to sit here and listen to this. Really? Well, these ropes would say otherwise, sort of situation. Like, it's more like it's a situation where it's a non-choice. And I've actually run into some really fucked up job interviews in that regard as well. There was this one company that I talked to a lady from, and she told me that I would have to be okay with, we don't discriminate against anyone in hiring, but they enforce religious practices in the workplace. Which is the same thing, because nobody who's not Christian is ever going to be comfortable with that. You are literally purposefully alienating people and making them, quit once they're hired by enforcing your religion in the workplace. Religion is not even part of the job. So, yeah. Unless the job is like clergy or something like that, religion should not actually matter for a job. But some people just can't leave it alone. So anyway, I never went back after my upline drove around for a couple hours with me, unable to get out of the car. She blatantly, I lived a 10-minute drive from the office. And she drove me. And then I was stuck in the car for a couple hours. She would not let me get out. There were a few times I contemplated opening up the door and jumping out and I actually calculated in my head how much damage I might be able to negate if I rolled the right way. There was a point when I told her, if you do not stop this car now, I will open up this door and I will jump out of this car. And after that, she didn't even hold up pretense of being okay with the fact that I was a different religion. Yeah. She went there just because I wasn't. I guess just because she saw me just being not comfortable with her precious uplines preaching habits. He literally started talking like a preacher. He brought, religion and God. Go be a preacher. I want to talk about like, rationally, logically, how this works, regardless of religion. I don't want to talk about how you think religion makes this happen. That's kind of like science versus religion. Like, I don't want that in the workplace. I just want the science, and then leave the religion up to the individuals and what they believe. You know, it's not hard. Apparently, though, it's very hard for Christians, especially since they are told from a very young age, if you grow up in it, and I did grow up most of the way in it. My mom was not, but she encouraged us to learn about different paths. So my brother and I actually did attend a church sometimes, because my mom wanted us to at least learn about different stuff. And then she died, and my grandparents, my grandmother in particular, like, she was everything that, like, after people learn about it, they're like, that's not real Christian. But then, like, whenever it's going on, none of them are stopping it. So is that real Christian too? Nobody ever answers that question. It makes them uncomfortable. And then if you talk about this stuff, then they're like, oh, it sounds like you really hate Christians. No. Actually, my better half is a Christian. He actually used to, the only reason why he didn't finish his training as a pastor is because his church had to move. Like, the pastor just up and moved the church. They had some people donated, and they kept on, like, trying to control the direction of the church by saying, you know, like, hey, we're donating, so now you have to listen to us. We gave you money, now you have to do what we want. And they moved, and he knew that I was looking for his pastor for him. And he went looking, and he found out that his pastor actually died. Yeah. It's been a long time, so we're not actually surprised. But he was a great man whose best friend was pagan. So he had some good influence from the beginning. You know, love your neighbor. It means be friends with whoever you want. Stop using religion as an excuse to be shit to people. And that is 99% of Christianity right there. Excuses to be shit to other people. If your religion needs to isolate you from everyone else, to protect your ability to believe in it, it basically means that it's keeping a lot of shit from you. It means that they want you to believe something that they're actually maybe like something to, I don't know, you don't have to doubt your actual faith, just maybe don't go along with people who try to get you to isolate from the greater community. Because that's a cult. No matter what it's dressing itself up as, that's a cult. And you need to stay away from cults, because they'll fuck you up. And I guess, you know, I've always noticed, I've never met an atheist that came from pagan roots. I feel like it would actually be very hard for you to become an atheist at that point, because there is no contrary. You see, whenever somebody doesn't believe anything in particular from pagan roots, they're just non-religious. They're just spiritual, you know? They're just, I don't really know. And no, I'm actually, like, quoting, like, I don't really know. Might be something, might not be. I'm okay with that. You kind of just chill. You're like, I understand that people believe different things. And that's it. Atheists are usually people who, and I've noticed this, grew up with Christianity, Muslim, or Judaism shoved down their throat. Usually Christianity or Muslim, because these religions are like, listen to me, and it's often where some people will even like hide that they're atheist for a while, or for a long while. And this shouldn't even be necessary. But I've noticed that the people who end up hating religion, and they just don't believe that any of this is true. They resent the fact that this has been forced on them. And, they don't really understand other religions, just the stuff that they were kind of kept in this box and told was it. They don't understand that religion in general is actually not there to tell you how to think and how to act. That's a cult. If it tells you how to think and all that, it's a cult. Generally speaking, pagans are like, well, there are vows I can take, and I take them. So, I don't have to. I don't have to call myself Wiccan. But in order to be Wiccan, I have vows of hard none, and that's actually a deeper study in how to avoid harming, even indirectly, and all that. That's actually a pretty deep study, just in the concept itself. You have to understand it. You have to understand all the different ways that you can cause harm. And there are a lot of them. But nobody's making me do that. And I'm doing it just simply out of a desire to do so. That's what it is. So it is different because nobody's telling me how to act. It's more, this is my goal, and this is how I reach this goal. And it has nothing to do with something intangible. It's all actually very tangible shit. And you can back it all up with science and sociology and all that, and psychology. You can look through all this stuff, and it's actually encouraged to study these things. So that you don't accidentally cause harm. The more you know, the better you are at avoiding harm and still, stopping harm. Knowing how to stop harm, in any given situation without causing it. So we're actually encouraged to know more. The more you know. Christians are just told, do as I say. And I've never met an atheist that came from a pagan family. I assume that, somewhere they exist, but usually people who don't particularly believe in anything from a pagan family are just kind of chill. They're just kind of could be something. Could not be something. I don't really care. Doesn't matter. But whenever you're raised in an environment, whenever an idea is forced on you, and, you're told, if you don't believe this, you're either with us or you're against us, blah, blah, blah. That's kind of the natural progression of things. If someone doesn't believe in it and they've never been taught that there's anything else, they'll just decide that nothing is there. They've never been able to explore any sort of spirituality in themselves or the ideas that, come along with that. So they've never seen the variety out there. They've never seen how many religions don't exist to tell you what to do. And are really more just a school sort of thing, a school of thought, but not in the sense of think this way, damn it, but in the sense of I want to read this book to understand how this person thinks and sees the world. Oh, I take something from this. I grow from this. It's more like that. Except a lot of it isn't books. It's just we have weird traditions, I guess, in that we did not come from a written tradition, so a lot of stuff is still verbal. So some stuff is And then, like, you have different traditions and stuff, because Wicca itself, you've just basically taken a vow of harm none. It has, I mean, you can be a practitioner, I guess, but you don't have to be. It's literally just a... for years people have been like, oh, Wiccan is a good witch, blah, blah, blah. No, actually. It is someone who has taken a vow of harm none. Not someone who's like, oh, I'm not cursing everything. I don't... I can't stand it, because every single one of these things that is portrayed in media there's always cursing involved. And I don't mean like the language. I don't care what the fuck you say. I care about the meaning behind it. And the fact that they actually like talk about voodoo dolls and stuff in direct we're not allowed to do things that cause harm, or that are believed to, or that we may believe will cause harm. If that is, basically we can't play with voodoo dolls. End of story. That's not a good idea. If you believe that you are actually hurting somebody doing this, you're not allowed to do it. So it's actually not okay. There are some people who are like, well, I can do this, and they'll do it, and they'll think around it, but that's actually harm in of itself. Yeah. That's not Wiccan. And I feel like some neo-pagans don't understand this, that it's actually something that, it's not the, grimoire type stuff. And by the way, grimoires are old books that people used to write things like what cleaners worked, how to make them, what teas to use for a cold. Stuff, the same stuff that basically most families pass down and still kind of tell each other, like drink cranberry juice if it hurts to pee. If it still hurts to pee after that, get a doctor. Because, they might need to, you might need to pass some stones or something. It's just stuff like that. Like, it could be a UTI. So drink some cranberry juice. But, if it still hurts after that, you probably have kidney stones. So get a doctor. Stuff like that is stuff that's, like, passed down. That's all that is. And so a lot of it, like, a lot of people picture it as, like, Harry Potter-esque, or, a lot like fantasy. We're not throwing around fireballs or healing spells. Okay, people sometimes call it spells, but it's just a different way of harnessing our belief. And it's not that direct. It's more like you bless this person and you wish healing upon them, and then maybe something happens. And whether you believe that is why or not is what makes you call it that. The same way any other religion is with their shit. And to be fair, science has actually proven that belief does kind of influence the world around us. Like, stuff has actually happened because a bunch of people believed in something. But it's not necessarily dictated by what God they believe in. It's just the power of belief. It's just a power that resides within us all. How we believe that power got there is where religion comes in. And also, it's where a lot of different religions will disagree. Pagan religions are generally where we go, you believe what you want, I'll believe what I want. It's not like science is in front of me to tell me that it's this. And this is true, because they can't know how this even works. They don't understand even, like, a fraction of this. And, you know, generally speaking, the attitude is more laissez-faire. Leave well enough alone, don't bother anybody, live and let live. And then you got the Christians who are like, if you don't agree with us, you must convert to us. And then some of them are like, if you do not agree with us, you must convert to us or die. Or lose your children, or go through a bunch of stuff worse than death. Actually, that is worse than death, by the way, losing your kids. So, they, yeah, there's a reason why most atheists come from that. Because usually, especially if you're in an old tradition, some of the neo-pagans, they're trying to, like, revive it, but they're taking some of the same values from the sort of Christian culture all around them. Most of these people have come from Christian families. That's why I'm saying that. And Christian families often isolate from everyone else. So they don't know that this is weird. Because they weren't around it, and they haven't asked if there's anything different. So there was one who went, where are all the pagan children? Where are all the wicked little girls? Well, it's actually incredibly irregular to teach your child to be a religion from a very young age. Or to teach them to be a religion at all. Christians, Muslims, and Jewish people do this. I mean, like, Jewish the religion. Not blood, because, yeah. Obviously that kind of can coincide, but being blood does not mean that you're teaching religion. Because I have that blood in me somewhere. And I'm not Jewish. So, well, I'm Jewish, but I'm not Jewish. Part Jewish. Part Hebrew, not Jewish religion. So, yeah. Cool, look at how the light plays there. I could totally draw that with some different facial structure, maybe. But the reference is valuable. Because most people take the light all the way across the eye, or they don't really have, like, intensity and different. I'm analyzing the lighting and shadowing here because it's interesting, and maybe if you turn up, like, the contrast on that sort of image. Yeah. Anyway. Yeah. Anyway, atheists are not an anomaly. They exist, but they exist as an extreme because an extreme is what they know. Some atheists kind of adopt the whole thing where it doesn't matter. They just don't believe in anything, and they're not precisely atheist because they actually believe something. It's just that they don't particularly care about religion itself. Some of them, that's why you have, like, spiritual or non-religious. Because typically speaking, someone who is solidly atheist doesn't like religion at all. Non-spiritual is like, well, I'm a spiritual person, but I'm not religious. That means that you don't particularly adhere to any particular religious doctrine, you just sort of adhere to the values that you were raised on. Not necessarily any religion, that was around. Just, don't lie to people, don't shit on people, that sort of thing. Don't let yourself be shit on. Just your typical stuff.